What's up, guys? Thought I'd come up here and talk about something I found pretty interesting. So, over Christmas break, I was home visiting family. Safe, mind you. Keep your distance. All right, so I was home visiting family, and I had a family member. We were talking about books, and they got to talking about, my favorite author, or pretty much the topic got on to discussion who my favorite author was. And I told them Stephen King, of course, which he is. I love him. I love his books. They're great. I didn't really think they were too problematic until this conversation arose. I mean, I've heard things in the past. Personally, me as a black man, I've it hasn't really made me feel too uncomfortable. I understand these books are written with a certain context. They're written from a certain time frame. So I mean, the real world has these issues even today. So it's understandable that whenever these novels or some of these novels were written, some of the characters would have some beliefs that wouldn't quite frankly line up with today's or how one should believe or things that people should think. The conversation came about that Stephen King, he writes black characters in the what people say magical Negro. He writes magical Negroes is what a lot of people seem to think. They like to say that he does this. Me, on the other hand, I mean, I can kind of understand where they're getting at. I mean, when you look at certain characters as John Coffey from the Green Mile, one might say, wait a second, why is this guy written like this? He comes off as the very stereotypical, black man of that era, which isn't necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of how people were viewed, whether it was good or bad. I mean, so John Coffey's probably the main example I can think of when someone says magical Negro. That maybe that falls into that category. But I mean, when you got people like characters like Mike Hanlon, yes, he deals with racism. Yes, he encounters issues in his everyday life that involves people being racist to him. But I don't think King did Mike or the black race any disjustice by writing him and his family the way they did. I actually thought some of the stories were kind of empowering. When you have Mike telling Mike's granddad, or when you have Mike's dad telling him the story of when he was in the military and all the struggles that he dealt with racism, from whether it was people above him or whether it was town folk. I mean, I don't really see an issue with a magical Negro or King writing blacks in a bad light. I don't see an issue with that. I mean, then you have Mother Abigail. Well, I could kind of see like John Coffey. Some might would say like, why why are you writing a black character as such? But I mean, you got to understand it's the time frame. The time Mother Abigail's from. I mean, it's just facts. I mean, that's kind of how things were back then. I mean, black people were not treated the best throughout the years, and King dives a little bit into that, certain issues that her family had to go through. But I mean, magical Negro, I mean, yeah, she's magical. John Coffey's magical. Every character in a Stephen King book is going to have some kind of paranormal, magical event happen. I mean, it's Stephen King. I mean, you can't really ask for too much more. Other black characters that I find now, so one of my favorite book series by Stephen King would be the Bill Hodges trilogy, the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, which has a black character that's in all three books, Jerome. Now, Jerome is a very black name. I mean, but now that character, that was probably the first time I found myself kind of second guessing, kind of like, okay. So Jerome is a black teenager who befriends a retired detective, Bill Hodges, and they have a very, very close relationship to where like Jerome is the like tech guy. He comes in and helps Bill out with his computer, which that's totally reasonable. And I mean, Stephen King actually kind of touches on it a little bit in the books. Jerome's family they're kind of a upper class black family, and I think if I'm not mistaken, there's certain scenes in the book where some of his family members or Jerome himself, they kind of get preyed upon for that factor. Some might say they're not black enough. I've gotten that in the past. That is a real thing where you're either one of us or you're not one of us. Like, and he gets that role placed on him a lot. Now, I don't mean whether it's his place in the world, finance wise, family wise, who knows. But Jerome, he has, and I can't really knock King for it either because being a 30-year-old man, I've heard this, as a kid. Kids do this. It's not good. I may have be at fault, for doing it when I was young myself. But Jerome, he often jokes with Bill. When Bill like talks to him, or like, hey, I need you to cut the lawn, he'll like make joking gestures, like, yes, sir, master, I'll go out there and cut that lawn for he jokingly does it. It's like in light, and I've heard black people do jokes like that. They're not the best jokes. They don't really hit the mark. I wouldn't think, but you hear something like that, and it's like makes you scratch your head a little bit. But other than that, I mean, I feel like Stephen King writes even Jerome, a black character, he writes him pretty well. I mean, by no means does he, do him like a disservice or like make him look bad. As for other races or characters that he writes, I mean, you have Wireman from Doom McKee. I think he is Hispanic or Cuban, or he's some Latino culture. Stephen King writes him perfectly fine. I think he doesn't make him look bad. He doesn't make that community. He doesn't look down upon them. So I don't really think it's right when people try to place the magical Negro title on a lot of Stephen King's black characters. Some may fall under that. Yeah, you can twist and turn and make that happen. But I mean, quite frankly, all of Stephen King's characters, white, black, or whatever, that's just how he writes. That's his way of writing. And I mean, there's going to be supernatural elements to go along. But I thought I just had to come up here and talk about that. I mean, Stephen King is still one of my favorite authors. He is my favorite author. And I don't have an issue with the way he writes his characters. To each their own. I won't hold it against anyone who does have an issue with the way he writes his characters. But I just would like for people to be understanding. And it's not all bad. It's not. I don't think that he has any ill intent or he's trying to bring any hate towards any group of people. If anything, King is a 70-year-old white man from Maine. I mean, yeah, there was an article I read that the title was Stephen King needs more black friends. I mean, honestly, he probably does. I mean, the Joker's 70 years old. Think of where he came from. I mean, northern Maine, there's probably like 20 black people in all of Maine. So yeah, I mean, it's just, you can't fault the guy for the way he was raised, or anyone. I mean, our parents, their parents. I mean, it's just, as time goes on, we realize certain things, it's not really tasteful. It's not really for me. That probably shouldn't have been done that light. I mean, but other than that, no, I don't think Stephen King is racist. I like all his characters. I like the way he writes his characters. They're very well developed. But yeah, feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. If you like the video, smash that like button. And feel free to subscribe. I do a lot of variety content. I do a lot of Stephen King content. But yeah, if you like topics like this, just let me know. We can definitely talk and touch base more on those. Awesome. See you guys later. Peace.
I'm just good at caring too much. I'm just good at caring too much. Is it too much to ask that you be all mine? I never was good at sharing. I'm just good too much.